Good morning, everyone. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Good morning. Calling the roll for the Monday, May 23rd Board of Control meeting. Nan Baker.
Here.
Dale Miller.
Here.
Jim Boyle serving as an alternate for Purnell Jones.
Present.
Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Armin Budish.
Here.
Lee Tucker serving as an alternate for the fiscal officer.
Here.
Paul Porter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, let's move on to our first item, please.
First item, BC 2022-312, Department of Public Works, requesting to amend board approval number BC 2021-354, dated July 12, 2021, which approved an award on a purchase order to Interior Supply Incorporated for the purchase of materials for the Jail 2 kitchen ceiling project by changing the not-to-exceed amount from $16,517.60 to $18,154.36.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works. This first item, we're requesting a change in the not-to-exceed purchase order price. This was for a previously bid item last year for materials for the jail kitchen project. This was ceiling materials. It was competitively bid. By the time the equipment was manufactured and delivered, there was some price increases and surcharges that we had to take on the cost as opposed to the vendor from the manufacturer.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Are there questions from the board? Yep. Councilman
Yes.
Lowe.
My question is, why didn't we have an agreement on price when this started?
So I think in today's, this is my opinion, in today's market, you know, there's a lot of things that just the prices are going up, just like gas. I'm not saying these materials are volatile like gasoline, but you know, if you even go to a grocery store, you pay $4.99 for a pound of cherries. Next time you go, it's $7.99. Everything's so volatile. These prices increased. I think there was by the time it was manufactured and shipped, it was like 6 months. So there was a lot of surcharges baked in from the manufacturer for these, the raw materials that were tied to the ceiling grade materials. It was competitively bid. We had an approved purchase order, but by the time we took ownership or delivery of the materials, there were some increases in price.
So, I know that prices go up. My question is procedural. It would seem to me that when we make a purchase order, we would make an agreement with two, and I'm asking whether the purchase order contained language that allowed the vendor to pass on price increases that they incurred in the meantime prior to delivery.
I'm not sure how, I'll turn to either Paul or Law here, how our purchase order language is written. This isn't the only time. I mean, there may be one or two more of these coming forward. We had sought advice from the previous interim OPD director, and so she was made, Catherine Tochek, she was made aware. Her recommendation was come before the board, explain the price, the gap between or PO approval, delivery, and we just state our case for, you know, the price increase, but I don't know if there's any language other outside of a contractual, but you know, there's a lot of prices being increased today. We got hit with landscaping increases by 7% just this week, so.
Councilman Miller, this is one of the first times this question has arisen like this. I think we're gonna have to take a look at the purchase order terms and conditions that the county uses and get back to you on that if that's okay. Generally, I mean, this is kind of a unique circumstance. Usually when we enter into a purchase order, we'll order the equipment and then get it fairly quickly. I think, you know, the delays in getting this kind of compounded the pricing, let's say that. And I think what would have happened is the vendor would have said, okay, well, we're not gonna sell it to you at a loss, and then we wouldn't have had it. And this is, right, you know, necessary equipment for the jail renovation, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And I think on the proactive side, a lot of our contracts that we're bidding, we are seeing less vendors bid because they can't hold pricing. So we're proactively working with Paul as well as our law department to devise new language that goes into our bids. You know, for vehicles, there are standard language. Vendors have to hold pricing for 60 days. When vehicles take 9 months to build out, they can't hold that price. So we had to release, I think, 4 addendums to wipe out that language. But we're working with them on the contract side, but purchase order, I think that needs to be revisited.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you hit on exactly what I'm looking for. I would like if you could get back to me with more detail about the purchase order terms and conditions and whether we're recommending any change to those at this time.
Sounds good. I'll follow up after the meeting.
Okay.
Thanks.
Please.
I do agree. I think it can be a slippery slope, that when we, enter into an agreement, and I certainly understand the environment we're in, but we have to be careful that if we allow it one place, that it doesn't become something where it's an expectation that anything that we enter into is compromised on the prices, so.
Yeah, and I think also part of what we're exploring is doing instead of one-year contract or three-year contracts, one-year contracts, but then that's just gonna increase the workload and volume to constantly do formal bids. But it's something we have to constantly explore right now, just because, this is, it's only gonna get more challenging, I think.
Well, we know that the contracts we enter into now, they'll build that increase in.
Yep.
Even if it decreases later, I'm sure we won't probably appreciate the decrease. But for anything we've done prior, we should probably take a careful look at that.
Understood. Thank you.
Would the board like me to hold this item until you get the answers to those questions?
For $1,600, I don't feel that that's
Okay, just
necessary.
wanna make sure.
I'm willing to pass the legislation, but get further information on the process going forward.
Okay, Mr. Boyle?
Is that okay with
Yeah.
you as well?
I do, like I said, it is a slippery slope that we have to make sure if we do it here, that it's not a precedent for what it does elsewhere. For $1,600, I too don't want to hold it up, but
Thank you.
let's just be careful.
Sure. Mr. Boyle?
Yeah, I agree, but I gotta be honest, I don't like this at all. I mean, the reality is that we're the only one. They certainly aren't gonna give us more money if the prices drop.
Yep.
I mean, and yet in some fashion, because the price is going up, despite us having an agreement of some sort, we have to eat it.
Correct.
And you say correct, Tom, and I get that, but from a legal standpoint, I do think that there is a question, because if we're gonna say we're gonna eat it if it goes up, then they damn well better be ready to eat it if it goes down. I mean, I look at gas prices, for example, and we bid it out now, it's $4.50. Tomorrow, it might be $3.50. I mean, it's that volatile.
Sure.
And we certainly don't inure any benefit to the decreases in prices, and yet we're being asked to eat all the increases despite an agreement or a PO that we have in place, and I don't like it.
So long-term, what we're trying to do in Public Works is, with our contractual vendors, our larger ticket contracts, we're starting to bring these vendors in to do QBRs, which are quarterly business reviews. Part of that is, show me what we purchased over the last 3 months, and then show us what we paid, what we should have paid. So what we're hoping is if we find a pattern, bring it in like Schindler's and Orkin Pest Control, Advanced Door, that over time we have these meetings, we show that the price discrepancies, that yes, if the price went up 11%, show me what the cost is today to see if it went down and we're being charged at a lesser price. That's long-term though. That's the biggest challenge we have, is how do we justify price decreases, which we're all hopeful that will happen eventually.
I would hope so, and it strikes me more as what we used to call in the old days a moral claim. I mean,
Right.
is it, but the moral claims are not based on legal basis. They're just like, hey, this is the right thing to do.
Correct.
And rest assured, vendors don't have the same interpretation of what a moral claim is than the government does, that's for sure. But I agree with the council members. I mean, yeah, it's, the dollar amount doesn't warrant holding this thing.
The problem we're having, Jim, though, is vendors don't even want to bid because they won't even hold their prices for 30 days.
Yep.
So we're struggling to find people to actually supply any of the goods right now because they are saying, 2 weeks, they won't even hold a price. So the amount of time it takes us to process a PO is more than 30 days, so.
I mean, we have the one bid for the medical supplies for the kennel. We have a vendor that didn't bid half the items because they can't hold prices beyond 30 days. So what's the alternative? We don't get the medicine for the dog. So this is what we're working with Paul and his team in law, so.
All those are valid comments, and I'm not assessing any blame. I don't want to speak for the councilman, but I mean, if the system is not working faster on these things that are that volatile.
Correct. And that's what we've met with Paul about, just what are we gonna do in this market that
Exactly.
is changing so quickly? How can we address these changes and with our purchasing system?
Remember, though, we're government, unfortunately, we do take a little longer. It's taxpayers' dollars. I mean, private companies can do it in minutes. We have a process. But I agree, all good conversation, but let's
Yeah.
look into that and maybe today or tomorrow we can get a response.
Yep.
Okay,
So-
great.
And I think being able to take advantage of the decrease is something we've looked to, because we've have put in where they have to prove actual costs to us. And so at least if you do see the decrease, then we should take advantage of that as well. Because you're right, I mean, we don't want to only be on the increase end.
No.
Councilman Miller. Yeah.
Even though we're government, it shouldn't take 30 days or more to do a purchase order. We should take a look at that. I understand that it can't be minutes, but it can be, it can be better than 30 days or longer.
I think, and I'll let Paul explain that, but I mean, just to get it on this meeting, you know, it takes at least 2 weeks to get onto this meeting. And then prior to that, it takes the paperwork, and it does take time. Private citizens and private companies don't have all of the contractor registrations and everything we have. So I agree with you. I think we've come a long way, but yeah.
It is a process. I mean, just starting with something that has to be informally bid out, you're talking, you know, most items we try and post for a week. If it's time sensitive, we can do a shorter time frame than that. But it's very involved and kind of a methodical process. I
Our
think
equity
Mike's
goals
right.
and everything else got to
Yeah.
get included. A lot of those things take, unfortunately, they do take time, but I hear you.
Sure.
I think, you know, maybe we can look at how the
How we
timeline as
can
well.
streamline
Yeah,
it, sure.
great. Okay, I do want to recognize Miss Nicole English as well. I'm sorry I meant to do that earlier. Seeing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Boyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-313, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with Vandra Brothers Construction Incorporated for rehabilitation of Lee Boulevard from Euclid Avenue to Forest Hills Boulevard in the city of East Cleveland for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $256,452.14, recommending to accept construction as complete and in accordance with plans and specifications, requesting authority for the county treasurer to release the escrow account in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 153.63.
Nicole English with Public Works. This is the first and final amendment on the Lee Boulevard project, which was in East Cleveland, completed construction mainly last year. And the big increase on this item was full-depth pavement removal and replacement. And so what happened is this was a pretty bad road, and so when they pull off the top course, they see what's underneath, and it was in much worse shape than we anticipated. And so while you have it up, it makes sense to make the repairs at that time, or you're gonna be back, you know, in probably 5 years fixing cracks. So that was the decision that was made at the time. Also, in some places near the curb, you know, where you would want 3 inches of cover, there was only 1, so we were fixing just some wear and tear issues that were out on the project.
Okay, I do have a question on the funding source. Is that valid?
I don't know why
Road
it
and
says
bridge
that, no.
registration?
We normally just say road and bridge fund.
Okay.
That was
Yeah.
in the briefing memo.
Yeah,
I don't know
something a
why
little different. I think we need to strike the
Just whatever you normally use is fine.
registration tax. I've never seen it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yes.
ask,
Please, I'm sorry, yes.
What percentage of increase is this over the total?
The original contract was $1,033,227. So I mean, this is about 25%.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big increase. The good news is the engineer's estimate was 1.4 million. So we are still under what we initially estimated. The bid came in low. We got ourselves up a little closer to that estimate, but.
Good, thanks.
Are there any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-314, Department of Public Works, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Rush Truck Centers of Ohio Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $395,452 for the purchase of 2 replacement international tandem dump trucks for the sanitary division, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Tom Pavich again, Public Works. This is approval of purchase order Rush Truck. It's for 2 new dump trucks. They're going to be replacing a 2007 and a 2009 dump truck for our It's for sanitary division. This is gonna be purchased off of the State of Ohio ODOT contract, which those are competitively bid, open solicitation, and the other two vehicles will be sent for gov deals once we receive the two trucks.
Thank you, Tom. Questions from the board on this item?
I can't
Mr.
believe
Boyle.
you got so much time out of the other ones. I mean, it was 2007, I imagine it's not gonna get much on gov deals.
You never know. I mean, people are paying high dollars for used vehicles
Nope.
today, so.
Really?
You gotta remember too, some of these trucks are pushed down, they may not be used for the original intention.
know,
And then
still.
they get down to maybe the
Used for
landscaping
parts.
crew or whatever.
15 years, I mean, that's a 15-year-old.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt.
Well, when you see them on the road, some of them look a little bit rough. I'm almost embarrassed our stickers on the side sometimes, but we're using them till the end.
Are there any questions on the item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Boyle. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item approved. Next item?
Next item, BC 2022-315, Department of Public Works, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Tim Lawley Chevrolet Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $59,448 for a state contract purchase of 3 replacement, new, never titled 2023 Chevy Malibus for the Fleet Division, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works. Again, here's another purchase order we're looking to be approved. This is a purchase of 3 Malibu sedans for various divisions that will be replacing 2004 to 2007 models that were handed down. This is purchased through the State of Ohio contract, again, which was competitively bid, open solicitation.
Thank you, Tom. Questions from the board on this item? Please.
So in this particular case, we did not pay an inflated price.
Correct. So this is, I'm glad you asked that question. This is a great example of being able to take advantage of a different purchasing platform where they lock in a price. Because right now, with new vehicles, they're 10,000 over sticker. This one, we're able to get this at the locked-in price through the state.
Good, that's good anyway.
Are there any additional questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item?
Next item, BC 2022-316, Department of Public Works, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to American National Skyline Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $42,619 for window washing services at various county buildings, commencing upon contract signature of all parties for a period of 4 months, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works again. This is approval of a 4-month contract with American National Skyline for window washing services. This is it for 3 locations, the Justice Center Complex, Courthouse Square, County Courthouse. It's as an exemption, however, this was bid competitively. I think we had 4 or 5 competitive bids informally. We had 2 formal bids that were submitted, which we're also working on a 3rd formal bid. In the coming weeks, we'll get that released for all county buildings, but this particular one is just for 4 months for those 3 locations.
Thank you, Tom. Questions from the board on this item? Mr. Boyle, please.
And what's the plan in 4 months?
Within the 4 months, we're gonna get those locations done. Those are the ones that we're pressing, the courts, the judges, we have to get those done. We have not had an actual window washing contract in 4 years, 5 years. So it'll be a new one. We are gonna work on a new bid in the coming weeks, get released, and hopefully we have something in place by summer. Again, we had 2 formal bids. We had one that closed, the first one closed with no bids. We had a second one. The vendor submitted a price, I think it was in the questions and answers. It was like $900,000.
That's crazy.
So we're hoping to go back out and, you know, this vendor, American National Skyline, did not bid on the 2 formal bids. We're hoping as we contract with this that we attract them to produce a bid for the next formal bid, but I'm not gonna.
No, it's great. I mean, you guys did everything in your capabilities to get people, I mean, and I think this
We're-
overlaps with what we've been talking about. The market's so volatile,
It
people
is.
want in, they don't want in. They're good. I mean, they essentially sent in what I would label as, well, I shouldn't say on the record, but it's highly inflated
It
thing,
was.
saying, well, if you're gonna give it to me, we'll do
It
it,
was.
but only at at that price.
Yes, and there's some staffing shortages in the field. I mean, it's just, so if we get bids on a lot of stuff, we're happy. But when we seen that one over 900,000, we immediately, we couldn't award, so. But we're at least getting the courts and the judges. We've been hearing from them since last year. We want to get that taken care of, which that'll get covered in this 4 months. But, we're hopeful when we go back out to bid, we trying to re-strategize with these.
They have the ability to hold you in contempt.
Yep,
So I
I
strongly
hear that.
advise doing.
I hear that.
Thank you. I bet you do.
They're dying for their window washing.
Yeah.
Are there any more dialogue in this conversation? No? Seeing none,
That'll
I
end
will
it,
make
Mike,
a
right
motion to approve the item. Is there a
Second.
second? Second by Mr. Boyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-317, Department of Public Works, submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to Cleveland Freightliner Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $339,159 for the purchase of one additional vacuum jet truck for sanitary division, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Tom Pavage again. Approval of purchase order with Valley Freightliner. It's a purchase of a new VAC-all jet truck off of State of Ohio ODOT contract. Again, those are bid competitively. We're able to take advantage of that service, and this is the award to that vendor for that.
Okay, Tom, thank you. Questions from the board on this item? Yes, please.
So this is a new purchase, new item. What was the need to bring on another vehicle?
So this is a new type of truck. It's a scaled-down truck. Normal jet trucks are about 489,000.
Okay.
This is 339. This one's going to be mostly used for catch basin work, so it's a different type of jetting. They've been looking at this type of service for some time. It's still going to go in the regular fleet of jetting on 2 different shifts, but it's just a scaled down. It doesn't do the whole section vacuuming. It's a different type, more specifically for their catch basin work.
Okay, so would you say this brings more efficiency and,
Yes.
things
Yep.
done quicker? I mean,
Yes.
there's a reason for
Yeah,
why.
they're custom built for the catch basins,
Okay.
which the current jets do that, but I think this one will be a little bit more effective at a lesser cost.
If I may, so the current jets, are we going to retire them, or?
No, we have, I think, 12 in our fleet now, and I think there's 2 more coming up in the coming weeks. We replace those. So if
Okay.
we buy 2 jets, we usually auction off the other 2. I think we had one last week. I think, we had asked that same question. Once we take deliveries, it's a 9-month build. Once we take delivery, we'll send those to auction. So but this is a new one, so it's a different type of function.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Sure. Additional questions on the item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-318, Department of Public Works, recommending an award and enter into a contract with Best Truck Equipment Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $8,400 for the purchase and installation of an 8-foot snowplow package with snow deflector and curb guards, commencing upon contract signature of all parties for a period of 1 year.
Morning, Tom Pavich on Public Works. Approval of contract with Best Truck. It's purchase and installation of a snowplow package. It's a 1-year contract, but I think once it's installed, it'll be done. So this was bid out competitively. We only had 1 bid received.
Questions on the item from the board? Please.
Is this typical that you would be getting a snow package in May?
Well, yes and no, unfortunately. I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but in 6 months, it's going to be snowing again.
Right,
So,
I agree.
we're either really late in getting this or we're really early.
That's
depending.
true.
I'm trying to be positive and say we're
Early,
really
I hope,
early.
yeah.
Yes.
I'll go with
So-
early. And,
So-
and I know it's $8,400, but is that a reasonable price
Yes,
in
yeah,
this
checking with our
environment?
fleet manager, it is, because it's a commercial package, goes on one of our F-450s, I believe. If you're installing it on a regular vehicle, it's a little bit easier, but this is a commercial vehicle, attaches to the chassis and welding and stuff, so yes.
Right. Is this the only one that you're going to be needing for the year?
That's the only one I'm aware of. I could get something in October, November, but
Good, thanks.
Sure, absolutely. Additional questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved.
you.
Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-319, Department of Human Resources, submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to Professional Sports Publications Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $9,998 for advertising services in various Cleveland Guardians and Cleveland Browns publications to assist with Cuyahoga County's hiring efforts and to increase awareness of open positions, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Pat Smock on behalf of the Department of Human Resources. This purchase order is part of the county's overall effort to recruit qualified candidates for our hardest to fill positions. Those include corrections officers, social workers, et cetera, most of whom work in a 24/7, 365 environment. As we're all aware and we've been discussing this morning, this is an extremely challenging job market. The county is competing with public and private sector employers who offer higher and higher level starting wages than ever before. And the administration and the Public Safety Committee have charged HR with using innovative strategies to attract candidates. To that end, we've done RTA bus advertisements, radio advertising, social media, yard signs, recruiting events, including recruiting events at our own buildings as well as Tri-C events. And we're continuing to use non-traditional methods to reach potential candidates. And advertising with our professional sports team is a new audience that we're reaching out to. This will reach thousands of people. It's not just print, but it's also digital form and social media as well. Again, the department's trying everything we can to complete our workforce, and we appreciate your consideration of this request.
Thank you, Pat. Questions from the board? Councilman Miller.
First, I support the request, but I just have a question as to whether with the war in Ukraine and COVID lingering and the Federal Reserve now aggressively raising interest rates, and we're starting to get some recessionary type indications on the economy. And my question is whether you're seeing any softening of the labor market, or is it remaining strong and tight?
Councilman, I can only speak to your question, to our experience. We've seen I would say, a very slight uptick in interest in folks applying, but not a huge uptick. Really, what we're really seeing is when we do the outreach efforts. And I will say that from the corrections officer perspective, from my perspective at least, the largest uptick came when the council voted to increase the starting rates and wages for those corrections officers. That really made the recruiting efforts much easier. We're at today 647. We have a class right now of 29 going on today, a new hire class. We're at 647 corrections officers now. But again, our goal is over 700, and we're still having a hard time getting that hump. So I'd see slight, but nothing major that we've seen, no indicators that are major.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Baker, please.
Just a question on the general fund. Is that communication fund it's coming out of, or is it just, how is that? It's just generically general fund?
Yes, Councilwoman, that's from the Human Resources General Fund. So we have our own funds that funds our talent and acquisition team, and this is part of that. So they decide where to best budget those dollars.
Okay,
It comes from their budget, which is funded by the general fund.
okay, but it comes
Yeah.
from their budget.
Yeah, it's
I
not
guess
a
that's
separate, yeah.
the correct way to
Human
ask it.
Resources, not the Communications Department. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Boyle.
So we did Browns and Guardians, correct?
Correct.
Why did we not do the Cavaliers?
I'm presuming, I'm going to phone a friend here, I'm presuming the Cavaliers are a separate agency. So this is through the advertising firm that handles the Guardians and the Browns, and I'm sure the team behind me will be happy to look at the
No,
Cavaliers.
should we anticipate that one would coming forward with that down the line, or I'm just looking at the advertising strategy.
Absolutely. We haven't addressed that yet. This was turned around quickly because of the beginning of the Guardians season. As you recall, there was a lockout, et cetera, and so things were decided very, very quickly. But I'm sure we'll address that and look at it for the future.
The other is a more generalized comment, but also a question wrapped into it. The sheriffs obviously have a vital need for staffing that has been well documented in Board of Control, Council, and everywhere else. But so does HHS and some other areas. I mean, are we looking at these type of strategies for those? And I don't know if but I'm not asking you to comment, but are we gonna look at innovative strategies on those as well?
We are. This actually includes those as well. It's the corrections officers up front, and then it also touches on the Health and Human Services. But I'll just mention that last week there was a one-stop event at Health and Human Services at the Jane Anna Hunter building. And we're doing similar things there, which is folks can come in, go through all the steps that we can possibly get them through in one day, and come out with a tentative job offer on the other side at the end of their day.
think that's, I mean, desperate times require desperate
Correct.
measures, so.
Correct.
Okay. Any final questions from the board? Please.
Did the HHS event yield good results?
The answer is yes. We had how many job offers, please? So over 20 candidates and 17 job offers from that one HHS event.
Okay, we'll take it.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Funny, Dale, because that's the same, I remember talking to the sheriff, and I said, you know, well, we had a job thing, and we only got 5 new COs. I'm like, that's 5 more than 0. I mean, we're moving in a positive direction.
That's absolutely correct. Although I will say, we had at our most recent sheriff's event, we had 77 candidates, which was low. We hadn't had under 100. We came out with 55 tentative offers, so we really do great volume with those.
Very good. All right, seeing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-320, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an award on a purchase order to Cleveland Freightliner Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $135,465 for the purchase of 1 replacement specialty response vehicle for the Lake County Type 1 Hazardous Materials Team.
Good morning, Leslie White with the Department of Public Safety and Justice Services. This vehicle is being funded by the FY20 State Homeland Grant, which is given to Ohio Region 2, and that's made up of Ashtabula, Cuyahoga, Geauga, Lake, and Lorain counties. So this vehicle is for the Lake County Type 1 Hazmat Team, which is the primary hazmat response team for Lake, Ashtabula, and Geauga counties, and it's also the backup team for Cuyahoga County. This vehicle is used to safely transport biological, chemical, and radiological decontamination equipment and other hazmat incident response equipment, and it's replacing a vehicle that's no longer safe due to age and wear. This was bid out, and we're awarding to the lowest cost vendor, and Ohio EMA has already approved the award.
So I have a quick question. What happens to the old vehicle?
I actually don't know the answer to that, but we can reach out to the other county and ask.
I was just curious.
Okay. What, you looking to start a hazmat team?
No,
With your
because
expired,
everything seems to expire, but that's just me. I have a
okay.
problem with that, so
his
anyways.
expired bomb suits,
So
remember?
the truck's probably in good shape, but it just expired. Are there questions from the board, please? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Nicole English. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next
Thank
item.
you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Next item, BC 2022-321, Office of the Medical Examiner, recommending an award on a purchase order to Leeds Precision Instruments Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $85,998 for the purchase of 1 additional dual-stage ballistic comparison microscope.
Shannon Medical Examiner's Office. We are purchasing an additional comparison microscope for the firearms lab with grant funds.
Okay, Hugh, thank you. Questions from the board? Seeing no questions, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-322, Sheriff's Department submitting an amendment to an agreement with City of Solon for outsourcing prisoner boarding care services to reduce the average daily population for the period January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2022 for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $85,000.
Good morning, Tanisha with the Sheriff's Department. We're requesting approval to amend the current contract with the City of Solon for prisoner board and care services by adding funds in the amount not to exceed $85,000 for services rendered in 2022.
Thank you, Tanisha. Questions from the board on this item? Councilman Miller, please.
To what extent are we seeing pressure toward increasing the jail population because of spring and warm weather and more outdoor activities, or has that not been much of a factor this year?
That's a great question. I do have Administrator Gibson here to speak on the prisoner population. Thank you.
Good morning, Rhonda Gibson, Administrator of Corrections for the Sheriff's Department. We are starting to see pressure from the suburb courts to house their prisoners as everyone knows, we have had a restricted intake process, which started at the beginning of COVID. We were taking only very serious felonies, some violent crimes, etc. And during this over 2-year period now, the suburb courts have seen a stacking of people that they've sentenced to jail but have not been able to serve their incarceration. Solon specifically has agreed to take some of these suburb prisoners that the judges have deemed to be necessary to incarcerate right away. So to answer your question, there is pressure for us to lift our restrictions. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of beds to spare. In addition, Solon is one of the jails that has said, we're not sure we want to take very many moving forward because they themselves are experiencing an increase in their local jurisdictions coming to jail. My team has reached out to other jurisdictions as far as housing inmates for us. They all are experiencing increases in their jail population. I have one jail that is over two hours away, but they can only take, 5 or less people. And so we're going to continue to experience this. And we did have a meeting with one court who said they were going to set up another meeting to start talking about options of what we could do without additional bed space with us or any place else. It's a challenge. I will say we have a meeting every Monday with the common pleas courts to talk about jail population and trying to determine ways to reduce our population from the common pleas level.
Yes, I've been starting to attend those meetings, so I'm aware of it. So, just got to get people to start behaving themselves. I don't know what that's going to take. I don't know.
Great idea.
I don't know why the population keeps going down and the crime keeps going up. It's frustrating.
Okay.
You're up there. How many of our suburban jails have closed that do not want to take on and used to take on prisoners that you used to use and cannot use any longer?
Well,
Is that a fair question to ask it?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I do know that right now we only have 3 or 4 that we have officially sent to suburb courts. However, there are the additional numbers that have automatically been sentenced to the suburb jails, and I don't know those numbers off the top of my head. I will tell you that Jaga County has been one of our go-to locations, and right now we have no one at Jaga County. So that's a concern since they take the largest number of our people.
Are they not taking, I apologize,
No, go
are
right
they
ahead.
not, I mean, is it just, we just don't have anyone there, or are they saying we can't take you guys? I apologize, I didn't mean to.
Sure. The last notation I saw from the special assistant was that their numbers were high.
Okay.
And they were not taking any.
So there's no room at the end.
Yeah, so that was more than a week ago. And they're just like us. They experienced a spike over the weekend, and it takes a few days to get the numbers down. But also with the rise in COVID again, that makes other jails hesitant to take other jurisdictions as well.
But I guess my question was, are there jails that no longer accommodate, that used to accommodate, and now are looking to put their prisoners somewhere else?
So physically closed, is that what you're
Yes.
asking? Okay, all right. I don't know that, but I can find that out.
Just wonder how many are no longer taking inmates and where we used to perhaps be able to send them, or they would send their own.
Sure,
And now we're have to accommodate them or find a place for
sure.
them.
I can find out.
Okay, that would be a question I would be interested in knowing.
You're speaking specifically Cuyahoga County
Yes,
jurisdiction,
Cuyahoga
right?
County,
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
How many are we now, because maybe we're looking at a more of a regional type look,
Mhm.
how many have we lost in that process that are not willing to open back up again?
Sure.
Okay.
I can look into that.
I think Euclid
I know
closed.
Euclid's one.
Yeah, that's the only one.
Is that the only one? I don't know.
Well, Euclid was under us,
Right, they were under us.
right? It just was not fiscally responsible to run a facility that held less than 40 beds. That's the only one I'm aware of, but I will check into the rest of them,
Okay,
okay?
good, thanks.
Just to, one, how many beds are at Solon, do you know? If you can give me that answer, and then,
Okay.
I know that Dale will hear it at 1:30, but do you know what the current population is at the county jail?
Sure. This morning, I believe 1720-ish.
I think that's consistent, Dale, with what we've heard, a little over 1,700.
Yes, we've been over 1,700 for over a week.
You were over, when Councilwoman Baker and I were there, I think you had just hit 1,700.
Mhm.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any final discussion on the item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-323, Sheriff's Department submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to FDL Marine Incorporated, doing business as Edgewater Marina, in the amount not to exceed $31,142.07 for the purchase of fuel for marine patrol boat operations in connection with the Operation Stone Garden Grant Program and the Northern Border Initiative for the period May 25th, 2022 through December 31st, 2022, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Karen DiCarlo with the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department is requesting an RFP exemption resulting in a not-to-exceed purchase order in the amount of $31,142.07 for FDL Marine Incorporated for marine fuel for the 22 Sheriff's Patrol boating season. Operation Stone Garden is paying for the cost of the Sheriff's boat. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions from the board on this item? Please.
I know it's a grant and it's being paid for by Stone Garden Grant, but is this a huge increase from last year? Do you know if they're?
We did not have the boat in the water last year, and so we have a lot of funds right now.
Okay.
And so, you know, with all those extra funds, so I encumbered all of them, so, and the cost of boat fuel is
High.
extremely high.
Right.
So we don't know how much we're going to use, and so I encumbered all of it and the possibility of it going, because some of the grants are expiring this summer.
Okay, and it begins
Grant years.
and ends at the end of the year, okay.
The boat's still at Whiskey Island, correct?
Right now, it is out in Sandusky, having the engines replaced.
Okay.
And hopefully this week, it'll be in the water and coming back to Cleveland.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you. Any final questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Baker. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-324, Sheriff's Department submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Keefe Group LLC in the amount not to exceed $180,000 for the purchase of various commissary items to incentivize inmates to receive the COVID-19 vaccination, recommending the award on a purchase order in connection with said RFP exemption. And I would like to amend the funding source to read American Rescue Plan Act, Revenue Replacement, Provision of Government Services.
Good morning, Tanisha Gates with the Sheriff's Department again. We're requesting approval of this not to exceed $180,000 purchase order with Keefe Group for the purchase of commissary items to be used as an incentive for inmates who received the COVID-19 vaccine. This program was established last year. During the time, 1,000 commissary bags were purchased.
Okay, thank you again. Are there questions from the board on this item?
Good question. I do not have a list of the
They
items.
are?
But
Well,
there you go.
Put me down as a yes.
Okay, glad you're happy.
like a kid.
Yes,
Just a
please.
quick question. On the revenue replacement, is this the part of the reserves that
Well-
this money was put into that is being used?
Actually,
Not-
once again, I'm glad you brought that up. It should be general fund dash American Rescue Plan. So this is the,
That's
yeah,
what I'm asking.
yeah, so this needs to be general fund. We need to amend it again.
Okay.
Yeah, gee. So yes, this is our,
And and we are keeping track of all those that
Yeah.
are coming from that fund?
right, correct.
If I may, you remember, Councilwoman, we hired, or authorized
Right.
purchase so that there's people, we have, and I know Becky, you're nodding your head, consultants to make sure that we're complying with
Right.
all of the parameters for purchases and tracking them to make, I mean,
Right.
we're on the hook, all kidding aside. I mean, look, this is a project, even without the shebang, that is something we need to do with all, I mean, it's, you know that through the jail, I mean, that's where it's all coming.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, we are tracking them from beginning to end to make sure that we're in compliance with all the parameters.
But we have two separate pots, right? We have one that is the reserves from lost revenue, right?
So let,
And then we
yeah,
have the ARPA dollars that now are general fund.
they're one and the same, so let me
They're one and
correct.
the same,
We are
okay.
100% fully in compliance
Okay,
with
so
the,
it's
with the
all-
ARPA guidelines, because we've already claimed it as revenue loss. So now it's just general fund money, but in order to isolate what we're spending it on, we added that extra language, not to confuse it. So all the ARPA guidelines we've satisfied,
Got it,
we're
I can
done.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They are tracking.
but you are tracking,
Yes.
yeah. It's because there was what, like 25 million in there in the
Now it's
reserves?
119 million, and then we'll be getting more this, probably in another month or so. We'll get the other 119 million. All of which has fully been, it'll all
Oh,
be
you know
general
what?
fund.
I think I'm thinking of the CARES dollars. That's
Oh.
what it was. So the
Yeah.
CARES dollars.
That's all, that's over and done with, yeah.
But some of those dollars were put into the reserves. I think like up to 25 million was put into the reserves from the CARES dollars that were
No.
from.
No, not with CARES dollars. No, that was all spent on,
spent.
yeah, that was not eligible for what
Okay,
this money was.
all right, well, good. As
Yeah.
long as we're
But we had it
tracking,
in a separate fund,
right,
you know, but once again, this money was fully brought in, it's general fund dollars. We recognized all the loss.
Got it.
And now we're just repurposing it and for you,
understand.
okay, cool.
Thank you.
Any final questions on this item? So therefore, I will make a motion to approve it as amended with general fund, American Rescue Plan, revenue replacement, provision of government services. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item?
Next item, BC 2022-325, Sheriff's Department submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Securus Technologies LLC in the amount not to exceed $227,500 for the purchase of telephone calling cards and remote visitation services to incentivize inmates to receive the COVID-19 vaccination. Recommending an award in connection with said RFP exemption, and we are amending the funding source to read General Fund, American Rescue Plan Act, Revenue Replacement, Provision of Government Services.
Tanisha with the Sheriff's Department, requesting approval of the not to exceed $227,500 purchase order, similar to the previous item. This one's with Securus, for the purchase of calling cards to be used as an incentive for inmates who received the COVID-19 vaccine. This program was also established last year, and during the time, 200 cards were purchased.
Thank you, Tanisha. Questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item as amended. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Boyle. All in favor?
You amended it similar to what you
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. The next item is being held?
Yes, the next item is being held at the request of the department.
Okay.
Next item, BC 2022-327, Department of Health and
Hold
Human
on a
Services.
minute, please.
Please, yes.
Before we go on to the next, can you provide any information on why it was requested held?
Did you want to address that, Melissa?
Good morning, Melissa Surak, Office of Homeless Services. North Coast Community Homes provided a residential home during our COVID recovery time, which still continues. We have worked internally to collaborate with DCFS as well in different utilization for this particular residential home. So at this time, I believe the contract sits with that department.
Correct. I'll help Melissa out on this one because this is one that I worked on when I was still in HHS. The language is going to be cleaned up to reflect that the primary utilization at this point is DCFS. I think, the language will be kept broad enough that if there were another spike and we had to bring, homeless adults in, that we would have that flexibility, but the funding will come out of DCFS's budget at this point, not the Office of Homeless Services budget. So I believe HHS is just having some internal discussions with the law department to clean up the language on the amendment and bring it back. It's not intended to stop the agreement at all. It's just to make sure it's being presented in the right manner.
Okay, well, thanks for that information. That's the kind of information I was looking for.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, Sharon, go ahead and proceed. with the
Next item, BC 2022-327, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services, recommending awards on requisition 7099 and enter into contracts with various providers in the total amount not to exceed $84,900 for various services in connection with the 2021 Emergency Solutions Grant for the period January 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2022, with Northeast Ohio Coalition for the Homeless in the amount not to exceed $30,500 for seasonal street outreach services, and with Westside Catholic Center in the amount not to exceed $54,400 for seasonal day shelter services.
Good morning, everyone. Melissa Serac with the Office of Homeless Services, requesting approval of contracts with Northeast Ohio Coalition for the Homeless and Westside Catholic Center for seasonal street outreach as well as seasonal day shelter services. Both of these contracts are late. Both contracts were alternative procurements based from our Emergency Solutions Grant RFP. So the services were needed at that time. However, there were not sufficient funds to make that award. With the usual seasonal influx that we see and the uptick with COVID in December, it made these services all the more critical to secure funding. So we received alternative procurement approval in January. There were also, both providers had significant delays in obtaining compliant insurance, and we received the final legal approval and insurance approval in May. Since both of these contracts originated from the same alternative procurement request, we wanted to ensure they were before you together today. And I just want to say that I'm grateful that services were able to continue to be provided during the season. It made deconcentration of shelter all the more effective.
Thank you, Melissa. Are there questions from the board on this item? Seeing no questions, I'll make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Before you do, I apologize. I mean, we do look through the late submittal thing. I mean, it's not as if you weren't, I mean, there was a conscious effort and a lot of back and forth between the groups, and I do recognize that. I mean, I don't want to speak for the council members. I mean, obviously, there's always questions about late things, but, I mean, I think this helps the board members, certainly does me, to say, it didn't just fall asleep at the switch. There's a process, and the insurance thing is an ongoing issue. So I appreciate the efforts.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll just add to that, Jim. It was probably close to a month ago at this point, rolled out a standardized timeline because we realized that some departments were including different information. So hopefully that standardized info is giving you guys a clearer picture for each of these items that comes forward. Departments do their best, and there are circumstances out of their control sometimes when things end up late.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize. I don't know if
So-
there's a second.
Would you like a comment? Yeah, please.
Just a curious question. This says it's Federal Emergency Solutions Grant entitlement, and yet the funding source is Health and Human Services. Is that?
It is Health and Human Services funding. It was based off of the ESG procurement process where they submitted their application.
So the word grant is not appropriate.
Correct. Well, for Emergency Solutions Grant is, yes.
Councilwoman, the reason that it's written up this way is
Yeah.
because the alternative procurement was approved basically to make an award on the ESG proposal that the vendors submitted.
Right.
So that's why it says it's in connection with the 2021 Emergency Solutions Grant. It's in connection with that RFP, basically, because that's what the proposals were solicited under. It's just there weren't enough grant funds to go around, which is why we did the alt procurement to approve this under a separate funding source.
Okay.
So it's more kind of a historical note, if anything, about where we got the proposals from.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Good questions. Seeing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Moving on to our consent agenda, correct?
We're on consent items BC 2022-328 through 329.
Kind of a short consent agenda. Are there any questions on the? Okay, seeing none, I will make a motion to approve today's consent agenda items as listed. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Lee Tucker. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Moving on to other business.
We have a time-sensitive mission critical, item BC 2022-330, Sheriff's Department, recommending an award to Alpha Pro Med in the amount not to exceed $20,995 for the purchase of 500 additional self-protection blankets for jail inmates.
Good morning, Tanisha with the Sheriff's Department here again. These self-protection security blankets were recently bid out through a formal process. There was an internal mistake where one of the bids ended up misdirected. So in order for us to just have something on hand while we go out to bid again for these items, we did a time-sensitive mission critical for just 500 so that we could provide those to the jail.
Thank you, Tanisha. Questions, Ms. Councilman Miller?
Are these the blankets designed to prevent self-harm?
Yes, correct.
And is the price on this purchase order consistent with what we typically pay?
It actually is, and it's actually a little lower than our recent purchase order with Charmtex. So this was the lowest and best recently.
Okay.
Councilman Miller, if I could add, the bid was misdirected, one of the bid solicitations or bid submissions. So we said, let's rebid it so we can be confident, that we evaluated all bids. However, when we recommended doing the time-sensitive mission critical, the decision was made to look at the bid submissions that we did receive and see if the vendor for the lowest and best bid was willing to enter into the time-sensitive mission. So we're trying to cover all of our bases with the rebid while at the same time saving the county a little bit of money with the emergency purchase, the time-sensitive mission critical.
Okay.
Please.
So are we, with the order that is submitted outside of this 500, are we ordering 500 more than we normally would? Will we have 500 more on hand when the complete order is in?
The new formal event that we're seeking to go out to bid for will be 2,000 blankets, actually.
And you would have done 2,500?
The original RFB was 1,000. And after discussions with the jail, we knew that we would eventually need to go back out to bid sometime maybe this year. So instead of doing that, we just upped the total amount needed for the first time versus going back out a second time later this year.
So instead of 100, you win 1,500 more.
Mm-hmm.
And that was based on a need, on?
Correct. Being able to have some to replace the current supply as well as having some on hand when we need it in the future.
Okay, and that, if I may, that 2,500, does that make it 3,000 then? We'll have even more?
No, this would make it 2,500. The 2,000 that we will be seeking to purchase on top of this 500.
Got it. All right.
Okay, any final questions on the item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. At this time, I want to go back. I believe we may have missed approving the minutes from May 16th, so I am going to make a motion to approve the minutes from May 16th. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Moving on, any additional other business?
I would just like to make a comment that the next Board of Control meeting will be held on Tuesday, May 31st, due to the Memorial Day holiday.
Thank you. Very good. Any public comment?
And no public comment.
I will make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.